This is Wycombe Sound.
Hello everybody, you're listening to The Art Show on 106.6 FM on Wycombe Sound. This is the weekly show where we talk about the local arts news, we play some local music, we have a different guest joining us each week, we have an album review from Twangling Jack Ford over in the Ilk Shed, and we also have the Rhylight Zone, which is our weekly episode of some sort of story, etc, etc. You can find The Art Show on Facebook if you just search for The Art Show on Wycombe Sound. You can also email me here at the studio on dane.cobain@wycombesound.org.uk. That's dane.cobain@wycombesound.org.uk. And I particularly want to hear from musicians, performers, artists, anybody doing anything creative. I'd love to give you a shout out and potentially feature you on the show. So this week we're going to be chatting to local singer-songwriter KLAARA. I think it's pronounced Klára Brožová. We're just going to say Klára. I'm sorry, Klára. That's how she's styled. So all of her Instagram and YouTube, etc. It's all KLAARA Music, KLAARA. And we're going to be chatting to her later on in the show and listening to some of her tunes. But before then, we're going to head over to the Rhylight Zone for what is hopefully the final episode / instalment of Amorphophallus Titanium, written by myself, Dane Cobain, narrated by Susie Q. DeMarco. So if you've missed any of the previous parts of the story, feel free to listen to us on Catch Up. We're on iTunes, Spotify, all that stuff. Okay, over to Susie.
By the end of the war, Enrique Lamuerte was broke and alone. But at least he was alive. He celebrated his 40th birthday in solitude, pawning some of his old equipment so that he could purchase a couple of bottles of wine and a good meal. But the end of hostilities brought celebrations, and the celebrations brought work. Lamuerte started taking in a decent amount of money, but there was little chance of him squirreling it away when there were new tricks to perfect and new equipment to design and develop. He continued to live in a guest house, but he paid for a second room and asked Mrs. Rivers to take the bed out. She protested at first, until he agreed to pay half again to cover the storage costs, as long as she kept her nose out of the room and didn't include it in her cleaning rounds. It was an arrangement that suited everyone. Then came the lucky break that he had been waiting for, his hopes slowly dwindling until it seemed like a solitary candle in an empty house as a thunderstorm rolled in over the horizon. One of his associates, a ventriloquist called Harry Handsome, lost his voice the night before a variety show at the Royal Albert Hall. Handsome's main rival, an Irishwoman called Saoirse Murphy, was out of town, performing in Paris. Lamuerte wasn't second on the list, and nor was he the third. In fact, he was so far down that he wasn't approached until 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and the slot was due 6 hours later, but that gave him plenty of time for what he had in mind. That night, after the curtains had risen and the entertainment had begun, Durian Pink was wheeled out into the centre of the stage and illuminated beneath the spotlights. He was encased in a block of concrete, and, as per the rules he'd been provided with on the maximum length of his spot, he had 6 minutes to get out. That didn't bother him too much, though, because he only had enough oxygen for 4. He moved quickly, his hands a blur of activity as he worked his tools and drilled away at the pressure points. He hoped that the artisans that he'd hired had built the thing to the exact specifications that he'd provided them with. If not, it was sure to be his final performance. A swan song that would be remembered for as long as there were people to remember it. Fortunately for Enrique Lamuerte, the concrete was weak in exactly the right places, and he made his way out in 3 minutes and 17 seconds. Afterwards, he had emerged triumphantly from the block of concrete with a chisel in one hand and a mallet in the other. He had been whisked off the stage and into the wings, where the national press was waiting. They all wanted to know how he'd done it. "A magician never reveals his secrets," was the only reply. The following morning, Lamuerte's quote was on the front page of 2 newspapers, and Mrs. Rivers had given him his marching orders, telling him that she had better things to do than to act as his receptionist. The guest house's telephone had been ringing off the hook for 3 hours straight, and Lamuerte had booked up his diary for the next 2 weeks with meetings. It seemed like every journalist in the country had wanted to talk to him, and he'd even had 2 requests to appear on the radio. According to the newspapers, Queen Elizabeth II had been in the audience, and she had been impressed by his act. Lamuerte was no royalist, but he did know the value of a good testimonial. He added the line, "magician by royal appointment," to his business cards. It worked wonders. By the end of the 40s, Enrique Lamuerte was one of the highest earners in the city's music halls. A TV special followed in the early 50s, followed by a series of book deals, including a much-hyped autobiography that was critically panned almost as soon as it came out, because he didn't explain how any of his tricks worked. He had lived a less than juicy personal life, so while the book became a moderate bestseller, it was quickly forgotten. But Durian Pink wasn't forgotten, and the media appearances continued to trickle in, along with more stage appearances than he could ever hope to honour. His wealth rose in direct proportion to the amount of media exposure that he received, and a 6-book publishing deal came with an advance of £10,000, an astonishing amount of money in a time when farthings and shillings were still legal currency. Lamuerte lived frugally, a byproduct of his humble upbringing, and that meant that he was able to squirrel much of the money away. But he was no Scrooge, and he didn't believe in hoarding gold or letting his cash rot in a bank vault. Instead, he put it to work, making shrewd investments in the stock market and eventually doubling his net worth over a period of several years. In 1951, he celebrated his birthday by purchasing a huge solarium, a biodome, and it was like a giant glass greenhouse, big enough to swallow a football pitch, and it quickly became Lamuerte's pride and joy. When he bought it, it was in a state of disrepair, and it needed a good clean. There was plenty of wildlife, some of it exotic, but it was wilting and badly managed. In some places, ivy had grown up and throttled the other plants. There was also a problem with pigeons, which had to be chased away before the solarium could be restored to its full glory. Nevertheless, Lamuerte fell in love with the place, and he continued to pump his time and money into the solarium and enjoyed an immense amount of pride and pleasure as a result of it. He liked to talk to the plants and to watch them as they grew, and he liked the peaceful sense of solitude that he felt when he walked amongst them. Even though he had always been a natural performer, he was also an introvert, perhaps a learned trait from the fear and discrimination he had faced as a child when the stories about his call had made the rounds. And so the solarium was the perfect place for him, especially because it also doubled as the great stage on which he intended to perform his final and most impressive trick of all. It involved his 3-metre-tall Amorphophallus titanium plant, a plant that was also known as the corpse flower because it reeked of death and rotting flesh. Enrique Lamuerte died on Monday 23rd of November 1953, after a short battle with an unknown illness that the doctors had failed to diagnose. It was as though the very life had drained out of him. Because of the strange conditions of his birth and his reputation as an eccentric, the rumour mill soon began. They said that he'd sold his soul to the devil, and that he'd had his blood drained by a vampire, or his soul sucked out by a succubus. He had been 47 years of age. His funeral was attended by a single mourner, a stranger in black who'd watched in silence and then wordlessly muttered, "What a waste," before leaving the priest to lower an empty coffin into the soil. There was little mourning from the general public. He'd been loved, sure, but he'd been loved from a distance, through the pages of newspapers. Most of them had no idea that he was called Enrique Lamuerte, known as he was under his pseudonym, nor did they know that he'd owned the solarium, which had been placed in a trust under the terms of his last will and testament. Lamuerte himself was buried in a glass mausoleum at the foot of his corpse plant, in one last bait-and-switch trick that left the public thinking it was just a waxwork from Madame Tussauds. And the lie became the truth, as it had a habit of doing. Pink Solarium became one of the leading tourist attractions in the southwest of England, welcoming thousands and later hundreds of thousands of visitors every year. Most of them stayed away from the waxwork and the stench of the Amorphophallus titanium, preferring instead to visit the plants with the prettier leaves and the sweeter smells. Over the years, his corpse remained the same, though the plant started to wither and die, its stench growing more putrid and vomit-inducing by the day. The gardeners did their best to keep the plants under control, but the money was running out, and eventually the visitors started to drop off and dwindle back to mere thousands, and just a couple of visitors a day. Inevitably, the trust ran out of money, and though the solarium went on the market for a bargain price, no one wanted to buy it. The doors were closed for the final time towards the end of the 1960s, while the US government was preparing to send a man to the moon. Chains were wrapped around the door handles and the plants were left to fend for themselves, which they did. The weak perished and the strongest survived, the ivy thriving and choking out the sun. In the car park, the weeds cracked their way through the concrete and stretched towards the sun. And Durian Pink slumbered on, cocooned inside his glass display case, as beside him the Amorphophallus continued to wither. Eventually, the corpse plant died, and when it did, so too did the magic. Enrique Lamuerte's corpse turned into dust in the blink of an eye, but no one was there to see it. The denouement of his greatest trick went unnoticed, even to the plants that he had loved and nurtured. They say that the solarium is still there today, but only to those with the gift of magic in their blood. When most people go near it, they're driven away by a sort of disturbance in the air, a discomforting set of energy waves that cause headache and raises rumours of government-owned cell towers that are designed to control minds. Only those who are born with a call can see it.
Okay, so that was Amorphophallus Titanium by Dane Cobain, narrated by Susie Q. DeMarco. You're listening to the Art Show on 106.6 FM, Wycombe Sound, and it's time for a little bit of music. So this is Maz Manzini with On Our Own. I really enjoyed seeing Maz perform at the Flint Cottage recently, and he's got a gig coming up at Wycombe Arts Centre, so keep your eyes peeled for that.
Tempting to stare at the sun, uncover the secrets with the battle already won. Turning, I let the rays lay on my back. I love it when you always talk in facts to guide me. A butterfly, a chrysalis day, there ain't no use in complaining. They've always got me counting pairs. We all wanna be on our own sometimes. We all wanna be on our own sometimes. We all wanna be. It's vital to go with your guts. Blow off the ceiling or keep your eyes tightly shut. Moving, I let the mood settle in the haze, waiting for the tiger to be caged inside me. Butterfly or chrysalis
Someone in your supermarket who's pushed the same trolley or held the same basket is highly likely to have COVID-19. This is a national health emergency. Around 1 in 3 people have no symptoms and are spreading it without knowing. So try to limit how often you shop and try to go alone. Always cover your nose and mouth, keep a safe distance and use hand sanitizer regularly. Stop the spread. Stick to the rules. If you bend the rules, people will die. Stay home, protect the NHS, save lives.
In the future, you'll be able to watch TV on your microwave, 3D print yourself a personal butler.
You rang, Mom?
And get fit by just looking at a treadmill. OK, maybe not that. But wherever the technology does go, radio will go there too. Because Radio Player is working with the world's leading car and tech companies to keep radio out in front. Radio Player. In the car, in the home, in the future. Find out more at radioplayer.org.
Okay, that was On Our Own by Maz Manzini. You're listening to The Archer on 106.6 FM Wycombe Sound. I am your host, Dane Cobain, and it is time to head over to this week's guest. So we are joined by local singer-songwriter, KLAARA.
So the first question I ask, and I don't know how relevant this is to you, but do you read much? And if so, what was the last book that you read?
Yeah. I read like often, but not so much, I would say. I'm so slow reader, so I have one book for a long time. But last book, that was something called, I think it's called The Hidden Life of Trees.
I think I've heard of that.
Interesting book. Totally different thing, but it's really interesting. I've just started, but I can recommend.
Awesome. Cool. And it's funny actually, because one of the things I was going to ask is like is sort of about on like the theme of nature, because a lot of the photographs of you and that you use for your music, you do a lot of like photography in and around nature. Is that like a deliberate thing? Do you is nature something that's sort of close to your heart?
Yeah, I think I take the inspiration from that. I think it's something because it's always connected. So that's something that's close to my heart. Yeah.
Cool. And can you tell us a little bit about those photo shoots? And are there like particular photographers that you like to work with? I think there was one Czech guy in particular that you worked with a few times, right?
Yeah. We had like photo shoot in summer, and it was really, really great. And so we got together and we were experimenting, and yeah, it was really fun. I have some photos like as like a Indian scene and really funny things. And yeah, it's really good to find people that you work together, and it makes it fun, because you can do whatever, and you're not scared what if and these kind of things. You can do just whatever and try it and fail and try it again.
Yeah. Is that something you do with your music, would you say?
That's constantly failing. I don't know how much is that winning yet, but I hope it's gonna get soon. Now I have plans, so I will see how it will go, and yeah, I hope like in this year, actually like next year also. So I'm working on more original stuff that I would like to play with band live next year. So it would be to just like have finally the energy on the stage. That's my dream. So I'm trying to work for it, and hopefully we will have some concert next year.
Cool. And how long have you been making music?
I think from like 15 maybe, but I started really late, I would say. I found it really late, and then it was love, and then I did just lots of music around, but I haven't been writing lots, I would say. I'm new in these things, like creating my own music, like original stuff.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's a harder thing, but it's also much more enjoyable when finally the stuff are finalized and I can play it live, especially with bands, because no one have seen me actually with playing with band live. So we're having rehearsals and we're trying to put it together, and it takes time, but we want to put it out when it's good, you know.
That makes sense. Well, one thing I wanted to ask you as well is because obviously, you know, I mostly know you for, you know, playing guitar and singing vocals, but you're also a pretty good drummer. I know that's sort of more something you do, I suppose, for fun, but you can sing while drumming, which is really difficult as well. People don't realize how difficult that is. But is there anything else that you can play?
I would not say I'm a drummer. Actually, I don't want to say that, but I'll say it. It's if you can play like the one beat that it's everywhere, you can try whatever with that, and it looks like I can play, but I play just the one beat that for too many like songs, so I can play more songs. I'm choosing the easy stuff, and yeah, it's fun. I would like to play drums, but it's a lot of work and a lot of time, and it's not my thing, but I really like it.
I suppose it's a bit like guitar in a way, though, because, you know, you can learn sort of 3 chords, and with 3 chords you can sort of fake it and make it look as though you can play hundreds of songs, but actually it's just, you know, the same 3 chords.
Yeah, actually many stuff are not like complicated at all, but it's just the easiest it is, it's actually harder to make it. I realized like having 4 chords and make a really good song, it's a really hard thing.
Yeah, and also I suppose it's hard to you know, when you're writing, it's hard to come up with something that sounds new when you're using just the same 3 chords. And, you know, I mean, I find quite often if I try and write songs that I'll be sitting there and I'll start just singing something that I've written, and like 10 minutes later I'll realize that's actually a song that already exists, and I'm just sort of doing the same thing.
That's the worst thing. And sometimes I come up with some idea, and then I'm like thinking I had to take it from somewhere, and I don't know from where, and I don't know if I can use it. And then it would be really bad if we would finish the song and at the end we would just realize that it's from somewhere and we can't use it. You know, but sometimes you have to risk it because you're not able to remember everything.
Yeah. Well, also I suppose there's only so much you can do as well, you know, and with sort of so much history and musical history and whatnot, there probably is going to be some obscure song from 1972 or something that, you know, you've never even heard of, but you've accidentally copied and stuff. So
there's the book, it's called Still Like an Artist or something like that. Like that. That's a really good idea, actually. Taking the not like the whole idea, but everything was actually done at some point, you know. It was written or sang or something, but just make it your own.
Well, there's the difference between sort of being influenced by somebody and just copying somebody as well.
Yeah. It's, I think people realize that if you copy someone, they're not interested in you.
Yeah.
Know what I mean? They would not listen to it anyway.
Yeah. So, can you tell me a little bit about your setup? So you use a looper pedal. Could you tell us a bit about that? And do you use an octave pedal as well, or did I imagine that?
Yeah, octave pedal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have like a setup with looper, octave pedal, and I wanted to expand it more. Like I wanted more stuff for more pedals for guitars, but then I realized that it's actually quite hard to just carry it everywhere, as I don't have car here, so it's kind of hard. And then I was like, oh, that's too much. Sometimes it's much easier to just take my guitar and go, you know.
Yeah.
So the looper pedal is complicated, and it's hard to make a good sound out of it. If I mean, it depends, but it takes time, and if you have like 3 songs or 4 songs you can play at somewhere at some I don't know, event or venue, and where you're just going to play, it takes so much time, it doesn't make sense sometimes. So I don't take it with me so often, but it's fun if the song is working like that, because you have to have specific song. If you have like song that it's different, like the verse and the chorus and something else, and it's completely like it's still changing, then it's really hard to make it with the looper. So it's also hard to choose a song, learn it, because it takes so much time and so much repetition that you have to do to learn it. Then you hate the song and you end up like not happy at all.
Yeah.
And then if you don't use it often, you forget everything, and then you have to start again. It's just annoying. So I rather play with people live if I can, but I like it's fun and it's interesting for people, I would say, if they see someone with the looper, but it's just a lot of work.
Well, I guess as well, you know, if you are playing with your band, then you don't need the looper because you've got the sort of backing musicians. You don't need the octave because you've got a bass player. And so it's sort of, I guess, matching it up to, you know, the event and whatnot as well.
These people are actually even like saving you if you mess up something.
Yeah.
Save you, but if you're alone, I've played many alone. So like I play mainly alone. Till this point, I don't want to do that anymore, but I will anyway. But yeah, it's and it's even much more fun, because when you spend like 4 or 5 hours repeating the song in rehearsal room and you are there alone with your pedals, it can be nice like once or twice, but many times then you know, it's better to have people around and talk and play, and it's much more fun. Yeah,
Cool. So who's in your band and what do they play?
I will hide it for now still.
Okay.
Still 100% is like this, so we will see. But I mean, it's really, I'm finally glad, because I think I finally found people that it's really like working together, and energy is there, which I was like I was looking for it for so long, and it's not easy to find people and you can rely on, and people who wants to play and who want to, you know, go to the rehearsals. And yeah, it's complicated. It's hard to find people, but I mean, if you find them and the energy is there and everything works, also like from the point of songwriting, I need also like help from the whole band. So I'm looking for someone who can put some ideas in if we need, or some, you know, suggestions and these kind of stuff.
Yeah. Cool. I was going to ask you about your songwriting as well. So how do you approach songwriting? Do you sort of, because people do it differently. Some people will have a concept, you know, beforehand. Some people start with the lyrics. Some people start with the music. So, you know, what does it look like for you when you write a song?
I'm still trying to learn that. I would say I'm not the best. I haven't written many songs, and it's the first song actually, the Where's the Sky, I released in November, or around it was November. It's actually the first song I've written, and it's finished. That's normally not the case. Usually people write like 100 songs after they put one song out, and I put the first one, and now I'm struggling to put the level there again, you know. So
So how did you, record Where Is the Sky?
It was, we recorded that one partly here, and partly at home in Czech with my. So mainly the vocals and drums were recorded there. So it was also written there. So
that's like taking it home.
Yeah, it's you when you're recording this stuff, you have the memories that I don't know. I wish I could see like what people think of the song when they hear it, because I have totally different probably memories in my head.
Yeah.
You're listening to The Art Show on 106.6 FM at Wycombe Sound. My name is Dane Cobain. I'm here in conversation with local singer-songwriter Klára, and this is one of her tunes. This is Where Is the Sky?
You said and walked away. How far is tomorrow? A new day. Can't stand being here, dancing on my own. I wish I could fix it all, to have those loves like we had before. So don't walk home, say no words no more. I can take you on the road tonight, where we can fly where is the sky, and we can be the fools. Oh, I can take you on the road tonight, where we can fly where is the sky, 'cause this is me and you. Now it's been months and weeks and days, yet in the distance I see your face. Cloudy sky will make a sunny day, and I want my partner in crime. I missed the one line to fit my rhyme, and you're the one who fits in just so fine. Oh, oh, oh. I can take you on the road tonight, where we can fly where is the sky, and we can be the fools. Oh, oh, oh. I can take you on the road tonight, where we can fly where is the sky, 'cause this is me and you. I can take you on the road tonight, where we can fly where is the sky. I can take you on the road tonight, where we can fly where is the sky, 'cause this is me and you. Oh, 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 oh. And we can be the fools.
That was Where Is the Sky by Klára. You're listening to The Art Show on 106.6 FM Wycombe Sound, and we are going to go over to the woman herself, over to Klára.
That's what I like about music, because you can see whatever you want, and other people see totally different things.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So, I mean, what was it like? Because obviously you're writing sort of lyrics for it in English as opposed to in Czech. Was that a challenge for you?
I think sometimes when you have your language, your native language, you overthinking.
Okay, yeah.
Overthink it, and I find harder to write in Czech than in English, even though I don't know like so many words and this kind of stuff. I write it like more, I would say, not so complicated.
Yeah.
But if I'm trying to write in Czech, it's just everything I write sounds like stupid to me. I don't know why, but I can't do it. I was trying, but it's not working. And also like Czech is not so like you can sing English much more easily because you can shorten the words together.
Yeah.
And these maybe even shorter words, and we don't have that in Czech. But Czech has also different things that are really nice about it. If you can write, it's like amazing language to write in. But you have to be really like poetic. You have to know, and you have to know how to hide it in it. Some people write like poems first. I don't do that because I'm not poetist first. I mean, it probably depends. If you are first like musician, you usually write music first, I would say.
Yeah.
You're more that kind of lyricist, poetist, or on this side more, then you write the lyrics, and maybe you go to someone and that person makes the music.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was struggling with both. I was like in the middle somewhere. But now I'm more into the music side than the lyric side. Maybe it's just because I don't have inspiration, or we're stuck at home and you can't go somewhere, you can't experience something. So it's hard to think up new ideas, new lyric ideas. So yeah, that's much harder now.
Yeah. Cool. So what are you sort of planning next? I'm guessing is your hope to sort of get an album out?
Yeah, I'm thinking about like short EP, not long one, because it's I think I still need like lot of things to learn, and it will take more time probably.
Yeah.
But having like 4 or 5 songs in like this time next year, maybe it would be the best. So I'm taking it as my like goal and my motivation, and taking my motivation as because I want to do the concert at next year actually. So that's my motivation, and I need to make it finally, because when you have deadline, it's much easier to work for it, have the plan, and actually.
Well, I was going to ask as well, like how COVID affected your songwriting and your music, and I suppose part of that is, you might actually already be at the point that you'd have an EP if COVID hadn't kicked in, because you would have had more deadlines, you would have had more chances to practice with people, more gigs to play, and all that sort of stuff. But I mean, do you think that has COVID affected your music at all?
I had a lot of time for thinking about myself and getting to know myself more. I was like, from the part, I think from maybe December or from September or something, it was like up and down still, and I was not able to do anything. That you have time, but you can't do much. It's so hard to just make yourself active if you're not active at all. Like it took time to just get used to the thing, like being at one place and not doing anything at all.
Yeah. Well, also you said earlier that, you know, a lot of the music is kind of it's almost like a reflection of life, I suppose. And if life itself is kind of on hold because of COVID, you know, you're not making new experiences that you can then write about. You're just sat at home, you know.
Yeah, but as a songwriter, I think people can write about anything. They can make up the story, but it's not so personal. If you're singing it, you have to feel it somehow. So it depends. It depends. But I think it should have worked all the time, because there are people like I'm looking into these kind of Nashville songwriters much more than like somewhere here around, or because I like a bit of country inspired music, so I'm more there, and that's completely different world, I would say. They write music they write songs every day like a job. They have 3 hours or something, and they like from morning till evening, and they're writing songs, and I'm like, how's that possible? Like, where do you take so much like inspiration for that? That's wow. It's a different world. And when you hear these people, because I listen to podcasts and these kind of stuff, it's then it makes you think like, oh, what I'm doing actually, you know, like I should be doing much more if I want to get into that world, because it's so competitive.
Yeah. I know, it's funny as well, because I guess some of the stories I've heard behind like famous songs and stuff, like I'm sure Angels by Robbie Williams was one where like they just wrote it in 20 minutes and then it just becomes like a super well-known song. And so I don't know, I think it's hard to get the balance right as well, because a lot of people will spend months on a single song to make it absolutely perfect, and then others will just write one in half an hour and just, you know, say it's good. So it can be difficult, I think, to know where to stop. But it must be, I don't know, I can't, as you say, I can't imagine being one of those songwriters who just sits there and writes 5 songs every day or whatever.
But it doesn't take like 20 minutes, because if you take the whole time you are learning and experiencing and writing bad songs, like years before you
get
a song that takes 20 minutes and it's really good.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. Just one last question to ask you about. Well, I suppose 2 here actually. So you mentioned are you working towards a gig next year already, did you say?
Yeah, I have the plan, and if everything goes well, and hopefully we will be able to make it. Yeah.
Cool. And when is that gig, and is that going to hopefully be your full band debut?
Yeah, it would be really nice, because I will be finishing uni next year, and I would have it as my kind of I would not say like finishing point of something, but I would say like starting point of something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a plan, and because I also like organizing events, and I'm interested in these kind of things, and sometimes it's too much, because I'm interested in everything and I can't do everything myself, so I have to remind myself that I need like help from people around.
Yeah.
It's good to have a good team. So if we're gonna do that, I'm for sure I'm gonna ask people, and I'm gonna do it with a team of people.
Cool.
I would like to. I'm not sure if I'm gonna put out like as like EP, or if I'm gonna put out like one song and then the other one, but it still has the concept, you know. It's still there. I want to have some set of my original music that I can play and I can finally show people, and not showing just one song, you know.
Yeah, that's awesome. Cool. And where can people follow you to find out more?
So I would say Instagram. I'm there the most. Facebook is also there, but it's less active. But I would say Instagram is as like Kláara with or Spotify too. So Kláara with 2 A's. I think it will find me anyway on Instagram.
Yeah.
Or YouTube, everywhere I would say. So if someone would like to listen to music, to my first song, Where's the Sky, and I would like to know if you like it, if it's something you like, and I think the music will evolve, so the sound can be different, like the next song can be a bit different, but it will be me probably.
Thank you very much to Kláara for joining us. You're listening to The Art Show on 106.6 FM Wycombe Sound. I am your host Dane Cobain, and it's time for a little bit of music. So this is the Rockola Morning Band with Black and White.
It's an analogy just like that. It's calm and it's gone. Sink or swim, the final dichotomy. In or out, bright or it's dim. All that you are
Hiya Bucks! That's not just me saying hello. Hiya Bucks is a magazine and website for Buckinghamshire, exploring the county, seeing the sights, meeting the delightful people and keeping up to speed with what's going on. We support local artists and producers, visit tiny libraries, meet ballet dancing estate agents and give away bottles of gin. Can you bear not to join in? Follow Hiya Bucks on social media. For daily readings, go to hiyabucks.com and look for the free Hiya Bucks glossy magazine.
In the future, you'll be able to watch TV on your microwave, 3D print yourself a personal butler.
You rang, Mom?
And get fit by just looking at a treadmill. OK, maybe not that. But wherever the technology does go, radio will go there too. Because Radio Player is working with the world's leading car and tech companies to keep radio out in front. Radio Player. In the car, in the home, in the future. Find out more at radioplayer.org.
That was Black and White by the Rockola Morning Band. You're listening to The Art Show on 106.6 FM Wycombe Sound. I'm your host, Dane Cobain, and we're going to head over to the Ilk Shed to catch up with Twangly Jack Ford for this week's album review.
The Rocky Horror Picture Show. Now, I saw the Rocky Horror Show when it was performed on the King's Road. It was after it had moved out from the Royal Court. Was in a cinema about halfway down the King's Road. And I thought it was quite good, but I could not understand how, at the time in the late 70s, people were so into music from the 50s that was dressed up in the glam of the early 70s. It all seemed out of date. However, that's probably what's given it a timeless quality. It has this sort of retro feel for a time that never actually was. It has a number of great songs that have become standards, and I know that if I'm playing to some people in a pub somewhere and it starts flagging and they start ignoring me, I start playing the Time Warp and people can't help themselves. They just have to start moving and doing the actions. It was made into a film with Tim Curry and Meat Loaf and Susan Sarandon. And that wasn't particularly well received either. The critics didn't particularly go for it. However, it started showing, I think it was in a cinema on Baker Street, and it's just kept going, and people started turning up dressed in the costumes. And people know the songs. And it has this message. Don't dream it, be it. The Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Thank you very much to Twangly Jack Ford for joining us for this week's album review. Thank you to Clara for appearing on the show as well, and to everybody whose music I've played today. My name is Dane Cobain. You're listening to The Art Show on 106.6 FM at Wycombe Sound. As always, you can reach out to me here at the studio on dane.cobain@wycombesound.org.uk. That's dane.cobain at wycombesound.org.uk. And I particularly want to hear from musicians, poets, performers, actors, craftspeople, you name it. Get in touch if you're doing something cool and creative, and we'll try and feature you on the show. So I'm going to leave you until next week with a tune by Harry Quinn. So this is Who You Need. See you next week.
To let it in, let it go so far. And if taking it far means it rings wherever you grant it, you're asleep to the way it ought to be. You are who you need, you are who you need. You will see, you don't need any reaction from those SOEs, and you don't know you want mindset at square one. Same old song, same old version, son. No, there won't be any time for reruns. Play that Jeopardy game, cause inflamed and trouble compounded. You chose the images and then you play the part. Needless for me to say, you are in your own way. What did you do to deserve it? Or does it matter? Matter at all? What is it for? And what did you do to deserve it? What does it matter? What does it matter?
This is Wycombe Sound.